All right, welcome back, crime fighters. It's time for another edition of Calhoun County's Most Wanted, the program where you get to help make Calhoun County a better and safer place by helping us lock up the bad guys. And by us, I mean him. This is our sheriff, Matthew Wade. Good to see you, Sheriff.
It's always good to be on the show, Chris. And, you know, we are a team, and there's no I in team, so it takes everybody. So
that team includes the people viewing at home.
It means the people viewing at home and the citizens help us just as much as or more than we help them. So it is a team. So it's always good.
And they've helped us find several more people this week.
Never let us down. 5 arrested this week, brings our count up to 4,268 people put away, all because somebody wanted to get involved and help us out. Thank you so much.
I didn't necessarily want to get involved, but they were willing to.
They were willing to.
And some of them get rewarded as well. We do have some cash rewards occasionally.
Some of them get rewarded, yes. And, you know, Crime Stoppers is a different organization, but they call that tip into Crime Stoppers, and we submit it, and a lot of times they'll cut them a check.
Absolutely. That's nice. Let's talk a little bit about the upcoming election. And I know we've got a lot of different things that are going to be on the ballot, but one thing that a lot of people aren't aware of is an issue that directly relates specifically to Calhoun County.
Absolutely. We have several municipalities that border Calhoun County. One in Talladega County, a couple in Etowah County, and they have got where they'll come inside of the jurisdiction of they'll come inside Calhoun County, and they'll start doing police actions. They'll do checkpoints, pulling people over, writing citations, and they're also charging them 1% on their power bill that goes to those cities that's not even inside our county. And these citizens didn't have a say or a choice in any of this. Now, it would be okay maybe if those municipalities would respond when the houses got burglarized or patrol their neighborhood to keep it from getting burglarized or answer any type of call for service, but they won't do that. They just tax them and they come write them tickets inside our county, and then the sheriff's office, we still have to respond and try to cover that. I just don't think it's right. It's not been right. It's not something that's citizens have called and complained to me for a couple of years now. And Representative K.L. Brown has got a law. It's going to be an amendment on the November 6th ballot. And I would encourage everyone in Calhoun County to vote yes for that, so we can keep these agencies that's not even from our county, the municipalities and other counties, from coming into Calhoun County, charging our citizens a tax without representation, and policing them and giving that revenue back to those municipalities outside our county, but yet not offering any services to help them when their house is burglarized or something is stolen. So
it can be a little bit confusing where the police jurisdiction goes outside of the city limits, and that's a discussion we don't need to try to define necessarily, but what the amendment is trying to fix is where you've got organizations from a different municipality that are
outside of Calhoun County
doing things that take money from people in Calhoun County, but they're not providing services to Calhoun County.
Absolutely, and I support it. I don't think they should be able to come into Calhoun County and tax our people and to take money out to other counties without providing a service to our citizens.
So your recommendation is to vote yes for this amendment?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have the first half of this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. All right, let's get started with the lineup here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. We begin this week with John Matthews of Anniston. He is wanted on a probation violation for theft of property, 2nd degree. Allie Boykin of Anniston, wanted on a probation violation for possession of a controlled substance. Jonica Adams of Anniston, wanted on a failure to appear warrant for domestic violence, 3rd degree assault. Montez Jones of Anniston is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for possession of a controlled substance. Terry Moncrief of Ohatchee, wanted for a probation violation for receiving stolen property, 2nd degree. Kenny Moore of Anniston, wanted on a probation violation for possession of a controlled substance. And Brian Sanders of Montgomery, wanted in Calhoun County on a failure to appear warrant for theft by deception, 1st degree. That's just the first half of this week's lineup. I'll show you some more bad guys here in just a few minutes. All right, we are back, and we'll have some more bad guys for you in just a few minutes, Sheriff. But right now, we want to talk about college, both you and I have got kids that are going to be in college here before long.
Yes, you know, my daughter's a senior. It's kind of a sad time, but I'm happy for her. But I hope she stays. I hope she stays local. I hope she goes to JSU. But she can go anywhere she wants. But JSU is a fine place.
Reese will be heading off soon as well, and not sure where he's going to go. But we do have from Jacksonville State University Dr. Timothy King and Julie Nix to talk about what our kids are facing when they go off to college, because it's not just the reading, writing, and arithmetic, is it?
No, it's not. I've been in higher education for over 25 years, and I have seen a significant shift in that time. Now, what I'm not going to say is that there are more people now who are coming into college and facing issues that weren't there 25 years ago. What I am saying is that the complexity of these issues that are presented to college students come about in a lot of different ways. For instance, we have students who are coming to college and they already may have a mental health diagnosis. Well, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, if I'm a college student and I go to the dean and say, by the way, I'm depressed or I'm having a manic symptoms, well, they just sent you home. We don't do that anymore. We welcome them, and we have to prepare them and make sure they have the resources and the things they need to be successful. So there's a lot of different stressors. There's stressors with class. There's stressors with having to work. More college students have to work now to pay for school than they did back when I was in school. I didn't have to work. I just went to college. Yeah. There's a lot of stress that's added to their plate, and it creates some issues for them that may come up that Julie here can help address.
Sheriff, now, if you had to work during college more, you might have saved you some trouble, shouldn't it?
It would have saved me some trouble, but you know, I did work some in college, but you know, it's one of
the
those.
Only way I stayed out of trouble.
Oh yes, but you know, and also we didn't have cell phones. I didn't have a cell phone until I got my first job. So, you know, we talk about mental illness, but there's all these stressors. You know, that device that all these college kids have, high school kids have, is could have got me in a lot more trouble when I was a young man.
So, Julie, when we send our kids off to Jacksonville State University, or really any significant university, there are people there that are looking out for our kids, which is good to know. We worry about the cost of education, and certainly that is a concern for the two of us and lots of others. But there's a lot of things that we don't always realize that we're paying for that are very important for our kids. What services are we providing at Jacksonville State University?
Well, all of our students have access to free counseling services. So students can present, they can do an online request, they can come in, they can call and have an appointment with one of our counselors, usually within a few days. We try to keep that wait time down. And they also have student health services at JSU. So RMC is a partner to JSU. And we have a nurse practitioner that's there all the time and a doctor that cooperates with her, and they can handle a lot of the concerns that students present with.
We may not think that our kids are going to need any of these services, but there's a major life change when you leave the nest, so to speak, and go off to a campus where you've got all that additional freedom. Your parents aren't there beside you every day, and just so many things changing in your life. Most people are going to need some help in some way, whether it's a formal counseling session or not. What are some of the issues that we see?
Well, of course, there's the normal adjustment issues, and families are changing. When you're sending a child off to college, that's an issue for the parents a lot of times. And that's an issue for the child, asserting their independence and going through those developmental milestones. They may have trouble figuring out what they want to do, with their life. They may find themselves in a major that they're not interested in and they don't know what to do. So there's all kinds of peer relationships. There's finding their niche in college. So we see all of those kind of issues in our student population.
And they're not all negative issues, are they? A
No,
lot of it is opportunities that they just don't know how to take advantage of, and you're able to help them move forward.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we need to take a quick break, but we want to talk some more about this. We will be back In just a moment, we will have the second half of this week's lineup and more with Jacksonville State University here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. All right, here we go with the second half of this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Dennis Gaddy of Wellington is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for child support and also for non-payment of child support. Shakori Cross of Anniston wanted on a failure to appear warrant for possession of marijuana, first degree. Nathan Ford of Anniston wanted for probation violation for theft of property, first degree. Stephen Pike of Piedmont wanted for negotiating with a non-negotiable instrument, better known as passing bad checks. Tyler Wilson of Piedmont wanted on a failure to appear warrant for harassment. Derek Johns of Oxford wanted on a failure to appear warrant for reckless endangerment. If you have any information about these individuals, please call Calhoun County Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414. All right, we will have the Crime Stoppers segment of the show in just a few minutes. We'll talk about some unsolved property crimes in the area. Fortunately, Sheriff, not a very long list this week.
That's good. That's good. We'll try to keep that down.
But right now we've got some folks from Jacksonville State University talking about the ways that they can help our kids while they're off at college. Dr. Timothy King and Julie Nix. And these kids need more than just professors that are teaching them the subjects. This is a whole different phase of life, and we need to take care of the entire student. And you've got teams in place to deal with whatever comes up, including tornadoes.
Yes, we do. And Julie was a big part of that. If I could just say that, you know, when your question about, you know, what are we doing to help address the holistic student? That's what professors are doing now. It's not just going in and teaching the class. We have to address the entire student from start to finish to make sure we're meeting their needs. So for instance, when the tornado happened, I happened to be in Knoxville, Tennessee that night, and we came back the next morning, and it was devastating. So,
thank God a lot of people were out of town.
Yes, thank goodness. It really would have been horrendous, even more so than it was. So we mobilized as quickly as we possibly could, and had a crisis response team. So this crisis response team was fairly large, but what Julie and I and some others did for students in terms of addressing just basic needs was to participate with the city and the EMA at the recovery area there in the Jacksonville Community Center. And Julie can tell you more so than I can the different types of issues that they addressed at that particular place.
A lot of things that you probably never thought you'd be dealing with, right?
Absolutely. It was not anything that we anticipated, but our community had already done a wonderful job, like United Way and some of their partners had already done a great job getting the Disaster Recovery Center set up. And so we, as students started returning to the Jacksonville area, because many of them were on spring break, we set up a table where we could help students, faculty, and staff. And I think it was so helpful to have that JSU presence there, because so many of them had questions about what we were going to do for the semester going forward. They were concerned about their academics. Even though some of them had lost everything, they still wanted to know how the semester was going to go and how their classes were going to go. And so we were able to connect them with important resources, and then also, you know, share information about how the academic year was going to finish out.
Of course, it's not always big things like tornadoes. It's the little things where you leave community behind, you start new communities, and a part of that is the student-led organizations on campus, right?
Oh yeah, that's so important, you know, for them to get involved.
And they've got a lot of different groups. How many, do you know how many different groups there are on campus at JSU?
There's over 100 registered student organizations on campus.
And so what are some of the different groups that kids can get involved with?
Well, the SGA is the biggest one, and everyone's automatically involved with that. There's several different religious denominations that have student groups on campus: Catholics, Baptists, Presbyterians, Methodists, Wesleyan Foundation. There's college Democrats, college Republicans. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And also there's Fraternity and Sorority Live, which is a fairly big deal on campus. About 10% of our population participates in that. So there's quite a bit.
And it can be actually a little bit overwhelming, probably the number of organizations and when you're just looking at your life changing that much. Julie, how do you recommend a kid, what should they do their first year at Jacksonville State University? What are some things that they can do? Should they reach out to your office, or how do they just start the process of making sure that they're touching all those bases?
Well, the Dean of Students office is where all the student organizations are housed, and they host events to connect students to organizations that they might be interested in. So that's a great way. I don't encourage students to get over involved, that first semester, but I do like to see them get involved, because I think they start developing those relationships and those connections, and some of them may be far from home, so that's really important.
Mm-hmm. Anything else that you think is important to let our students and parents know?
Well, I'll go back to what you just asked. All the research demonstrates that students who are involved have a greater chance of being successful in college and persist. Mm-hmm. So, like Julie said, those connections they develop with other students, they can become more comfortable with what they're searching to do, and then they develop a relationship and an engagement with the campus. It becomes home. Mm-hmm. That's why you see about alumni who come back and they want to participate or donate money or whatever it may be. They've developed a connection to that campus because of their involvement. So it's real important that students get involved, just like Julie said, just not overly involved.
Yeah. Don't try to bite off too much,
yes,
but find
study.
a few things that you can do, and then you got time over the 4 or 5 years.
It's not a race. We'll just say that. It wasn't for me anyway.
Yeah, not for me either. A little bit of time to figure out which ones you like and add on and subtract and just go as you do. Well, thank you very much for being here, and thanks for being there for our kids as they move up to that level.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And we will be back in just a moment. We will have the Crime Stoppers segment of the show and our Crazy Criminal of the Week on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. All right, now it's time for the Crime Stoppers segment of the show. Talk about some property crimes that hopefully you can help us solve. One little piece of information can turn things wide open. On September 17th, a home on Angel Drive in Jacksonville was broken into. A Hitachi 55-inch television and a Sony 55-inch television were taken. On September 19th, a red and black Baja mini bike was stolen from a residence on Snow Circle in Oxford. And also on September 19th, a yellow Cub Cadet tiller was stolen from a residence on Oak Hill Road in Oxford. Any information that you can share would be appreciated. We need your information, not your name, and you could get a cash reward by calling Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
Sheriff, you ever show up to some disturbance, and when you get everybody settled down, you ask them what got this all started, and you're just like, seriously?
All the time. Absolutely.
Y'all are doing this over this? Okay, Roger Washburn has been arrested for assaulting a friend of his, a lifelong friend. They've been friends for over 30 years. And they got into a fight, and he ended up pulling out his pistol. He didn't shoot at his friend, but he hit him with the gun, and it went off, and he hit him with it again, and it went off again.
Yeah, that's bad.
They were fighting over a Bruno Mars song and what the name of that particular Bruno Mars song was.
Was there alcohol involved?
Alcohol or something else, I'm willing to bet probably was. I do not know definitively, but yes.
Who cares? I mean, we see that all the time, though. You just go, who cares? You're fighting over this?
Yeah. Crazy. All right. That's all the time that we have for this week. We'll be looking for you again next week, but hopefully not in the lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.